Good morning. Welcome to the Chinese University of Hong Kong Library and this symposium entitled Reminding Test from Traditional to Digital. Co-organized by the Hong Kong Literature Research Center and the CUHK Library. I'm Wendy, the Clear Postdoc Fellow on Digital Scholarship at the CUHK Library. In celebration of the 3rd anniversary of the establishment of the Digital Scholarship Lab, where you are now seated, we are now holding our 2nd Digital Scholarship Symposium, after the first being held in 2017. Our program today includes a keynote speech and 3 panels, respectively on English tests and social media, Hong Kong literature, and Chinese text mining. Before the keynote speech and all the presentations, may I invite Ms. Louise Jones, the University Librarian, to deliver a welcome speech.
Distinguished speakers, guests, colleagues, and old friends, welcome, a very warm welcome to this symposium. Particularly a warm welcome to our overseas speakers, Professor DOWNIE, Professor Chue, and Professor Bertala. I got it right, yeah. I think it's really important for us to understand how global this issue of digital humanities, digital scholarship is. And we're also really grateful to have speakers from our local sister institutions. So Professor Kong from EDU, Mr. Liu from Lingnan. Where's Mr. Liu from Lingnan? He's an old colleague here. And again, we have many CU speakers that reflect the real interdisciplinary nature of this field. So we have Professor Lam from Systems Engineering, Professor Liang from the School of Journalism and Communication, and Professor Wong from Chinese Language and Literature. Professor Wong is the director of the Hong Kong Literature Research Centre. And I would like to echo Wendy's real special thank you to the Centre for supporting and co-organising this event. We have been working with them for many years now on Hong Kong literature and how we move that into a new era of digital scholarship, digital humanities is really important for us. I don't want to forget our moderators, Professor Ye from Translation, Professor Fan from Chinese Language and Literature, and Dr. Lau from the Library. And speaking of people from the library, I'm also absolutely delighted that the team who not only have organised this event, but they are also going to be speaking at this event. So Ms. Su, the Digital Scholarship Lab Manager, and Dr. Wong will be speaking this afternoon. So I want to say a big thank you to all of you for coming today, to our speakers, but particularly to the Digital Scholarship, the Research and Digital Initiatives team. They are only 3 years old. This space is 3 years old, and I just want to very quickly tell you some of the things they've been doing, because I think they have been doing amazing work. So this space has been used as a venue for all sorts of events, not just digital humanities symposiums, but research seminars, data mining boot camps. One department tested a VR quiz that they developed here. We've had press conferences that launch research results, courseware presentations. So there's a whole range of events. And over the 3 years, there's been over 148 events by departments. And this academic year, last academic year, there were almost 2,000 people who came to an event in this space. We also run library workshops, introductions to digital humanities, tools such as ArcGIS, Gephi, OpenRevine, Python, Tableau. Many of these are taught by our Research Support and Digital Initiatives staff, but we also bring in experts as well. And over the 3 years, we've had 83 workshops and over 1,000 attendees. And this is really important that this is a space where particularly students, early career researchers can come from many different disciplines and learn together. They don't just have this space, The team has worked on projects. We have a wonderful visualising archaeology project that you can have a look at on the web. We've worked with one of our archaeology colleagues. We've actually become a partner in a successful grant bid on literature. And most importantly, I think we're developing a platform for digital scholarship here at CU. We have computer space, we have very specialist software, we have a repository, we are digitising our texts, and we are working on turning those into data that can then be used. So I think it's the library can help provide a very important platform for digital scholarship, but it can't do it in isolation. This is why it's wonderful to see people from many different libraries and different disciplines from all over the world. So the only other thing I want to say, and I want to really thank my team for, is the outreach, because without them stepping outside the library and talking to you, this wouldn't happen. And they are a really shining example, I think, of outreach for this very new and challenging age for libraries, but also I think for academics. So hopefully we're going to learn a lot today. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot today. So thank you very much for attending.
Please stay and present a souvenir to Professor Stephen DOWNIE, our keynote speaker. Professor DOWNIE, please.
This is from our 3D printing.
Thank you, Professor DOWNIE and Ms. Jones. Now, may I invite Dr. Maria Lau, our Deputy Librarian, to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Stephen DOWNIE. Dr. Lau, please.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to the Digital Scholarship Symposium 2019. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our keynote speaker this morning, Professor Stephen DOWNIE, who is currently the Associate Dean for Research and Professor at the School of Information Sciences, University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. He will engage us in this very fitting topic for this symposium, the HathiTrust Research Center, creating new opportunities in support of scholarly text mining. Professor DOWNIE is the Illinois co-director of the HathiTrust Research Center, the leader of the HathiTrust Plus Bookworm Text Analysis project that creates tools to visualize the evolution of term usage over time. He also represents the HathiTrust Research Center on the novel text mining project and the single interface for music score searching and analysis project. Professor DOWNIE was also the principal investigator on the work set creation for scholarly analysis plus data capsules project funded by the A.W. Malone Foundation. All these projects aims to provide large-scale analytic access to copyright-restricted cultural data. There are other distinguished aspects to Professor DOWNIE. He has been very active in the establishment of the Music Information Retrieval. He was the president of the International Society for Music Information Retrieval and now serves on the board. In the recent past, Professor DOWNIE worked with Dunhuang Academy on the Digital Dunhuang project to help connect digital humanities scholars with the high-resolution digital materials capturing the Mogao caves. Professor DOWNIE's research interests include cultural informatics and heritage, data analytics, digital humanities, digital libraries, and information retrieval. Please join me in welcoming Professor DOWNIE.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Stephen. Very quickly, I teach at the University of Illinois. It's a bit loud. At Urbana-Champaign. And I'm Canadian though. I'm not an American. I lived in the United States since 1998. I also speak very quickly, so if I'm speaking too quickly, just tell me to stop or repeat, and I'll feel free to do so. It's all about you understanding what's happening today. I have 101 slides that we're going to go through. Yeah, so how are we doing for time? We're going to get going. I'm going to start the stopwatch right there. And we're off. So today we're going to learn more about the HathiTrust Research Center and what we're doing to help scholars use the resources and explore a lot of interesting content. Okay, so as we begin here, what I really need to do is thank everyone that I work with. I've been working now with the Research Center for about 6-7 years, and this slide deck is, some of them are 6 or 7 years old. So each year we add new slides, we get new things. So this is a collective work of all my colleagues. I like to call it my potluck PowerPoint. Everyone brings a slide. And thanks to all the staff and so on that helped create this content. Okay, so several things we need to work on today if you're going to get a good understanding of what I've been doing for a living over the next little while, or the past few years. So one thing we need to distinguish is, what is the HathiTrust? I'm going to spend a fair amount of time describing to you what the HathiTrust is all about. I think it will resonate quite well with a lot of the folks working here in the Hong Kong academic library world. And we'll talk about the organization and its collections and services. Then we're going to pivot and we'll get into what is the Research Center. That's where I've been spending my time. This notion of non-consumptive research, which might be new to you. Talk about the different tools and services we provide. Give you some example projects, some example uses of this data. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about an ongoing program that we have called Digging Deeper, Reaching Further, and then wrap it up and take questions and all that goodness, all that good stuff. Okay, so what is the HathiTrust? Well, first of all, it's pronounced Hathi, as in hot tea, right? And for a lot of you might know, because we are in Asia right now, it's the Hindi word for elephant. So think of elephants as being long-lived, very big, very smart, they never forget. So that's all part of the symbol for the HathiTrust. So HathiTrust contributes to research, scholarship, and the common good by collaboratively collecting, organizing, preserving, communicating, and sharing the record of human knowledge. All of you here that work at a library, this is the definition of a library. This is what libraries do. And that's important. The HathiTrust as an organization is very library-centric. It comes from library world. So that's important, because that informs our ethos, our work habits, our goals, right? So, and of course, over the next 5 years, HathiTrust will be a vital catalyst for emerging forms of research, teaching, and learning that engage the scholarly and cultural record. So, it turns out, this is, or just turned out to be the 10th anniversary. Happy birthday to the elephant. 10th anniversary of the HathiTrust. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more. So they've really been playing this up. They're really quite proud of their accomplishments, as they should be. So all of this starts back, look at the date on that, 2004. The HathiTrust has a really strong relationship with Google, and it was some leadership provided by Google and the University of Michigan, Stanford, and University of California libraries coming together to make this strange dream of digitizing the contents of these massive libraries and then making it useful in some way. And so after many years of negotiation and some very strong leadership provided by different university librarians, they actually started the project around 2008. And this is the contract. So that's November 11, 2007, and this is how they got the deal done to start to do the massive digitization. And one of the ways I like to think of it, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not the director of the HathiTrust, but is to think about it, the deal that the libraries made was that Google would come in, bring their equipment, bring their expertise, bring their large-scale ability to handle data, and they would scan the books, and as in exchange for having access to these university libraries, Google would leave a copy of the data with the library. So basically there are 2 copies of the data. One copy went to Google, the other copy stayed with the universities, and it's around that copy that the HathiTrust is born. So that's if you can think of that, that's the relationship between the 2. Yeah, I'm not going to press on this too hard. So, yeah, 2008, 12 founding members of the organization, with University of California and University of Illinois, Michigan, and so on. So, what you really need to do is think of the HathiTrust not as a digital library, though it's easy to think that. It really is a membership organization. It's a club. And it's a club with roughly 150 university libraries all participating. And they all come together to do these common suite of sort of portfolio of work and services. So they do collection development, mass digitalization. They are working a little bit with Born Digital, but for the most part, it's scanned materials. Then a very strong preservation aspect. Basically, like to think of this as the backup photocopy of these big libraries. So if a spaceship went and took the University of Michigan library, we'd have one copy of the works there, and we could reconstruct it. Then, of course, because we have this data together, we have discovery services, exploring new kinds of full text cataloging and searching. And this is very important. The access to the data for people with print disabilities. They have special kinds of access now that they never had before to this collection. And then rights management, they spend a lot of time making sure that they're not violating copyright in whatever jurisdiction in which they're being used. And then, of course, they're doing shared print services. So collectively coming together to find out who's actually retaining these copies. And then holdings analysis, of course. And then over here, this is where I sort of live. I help run the HathiTrust Research Center in conjunction with my colleague, the director of the Research Center, Professor John Walsh. And then we have derived data sets, which we'll talk about, and enhancements to the corpus by generating new kinds of metadata. Okay. It's a member organization, so it's about preserving this content and then opening it up. So unlimited deposits for collection materials. So if you're a member of the HathiTrust, then your members, the people that you represent, can download complete public domain works. Non-members can read individual pages, but having access to those full volumes is quite good. And special access will help you manage. Basically, if you're a print-disabled person in the United States, you can get access to the entire collection. So, and that's managed through. This is probably one of their proudest things that they really. This is a deal changer that they get access to all this material, and then physical access to items retained and share print program, and so on. And so, just to get you a sense, this is very much a membership organization. So it has a board of governors made up of primarily university librarians that are the contributors, and they get elected. And Mike Furlow, who helped me present this deck, his team, he's the executive director, so he runs it day to day. There's a program steering committee and a number of work groups, each with different subject areas that they're working on. Operations, for the most part, lives at the University of Michigan. That's where the collection is housed, and that's where Dr. Furlow lives. And then the Research Center is split between Illinois and Indiana, and we answer to Professor Furlow. And we now actually have one of our staff members, our outreach associate director, is now housed at the University of Michigan to get us some more contact with basic operations. So, we like to speak of this notion of a co-invested infrastructure. So my university, University of Illinois, is helping to fund the Research Center, along with Indiana. We also get some funding through the fees of to a larger organization. University of California is contributing a lot of effort in managing the metadata, and you can probably imagine, you practicing librarians here, just what a huge chore the metadata management is for this project. And then of course Michigan is the administrative home. Okay, so what is it that we have here in the HathiTrust? So, this is my favorite part of the talk. There are, is this going to work? Oh, did I lose my numbers? Where are my numbers? I have them memorized, so. Anyway, so we'll figure this out. There are roughly 5.9 billion scanned pages in this collection, almost 6 billion. It sits on about 800 terabytes of disk at the University of Michigan. If you were to take a standardized width of these books, and about 2.5 inches per spine, then that quite literally is 200 linear miles. And that takes us from this room all the way to near Moming, right? It's a big collection. It's massive. There are about 17 million volumes in this collection. So 17 million volumes. Think of something that was sitting on the shelf, got grabbed and scanned, right? So that could be a journal-bound volume. It could be a volume of maps. It could be anything with a spine. So basically, there are 17 million spines in this collection. About 7.5 million unique titles, so there's some duplicates and so on. And the thing weighs about 13,000 tons, which is about 6,000 elephants, plus or minus, according to Google. And I really want to know where my numbers went. Man, there they are. There, okay, so, and when I first started giving this talk, there was only about 3 billion pages, so it's doubled in about the last 10 years. So this is a very important number here. About 6 million of the volumes, 48%, are in the public domain, and the rest are under copyright. So about 10 million volumes, which are all fully scanned, cannot be shared with the broader world, but they are in the collection. And it's part of my job to find ways to get people to do research, to do interesting analysis on that missing, hidden 10 million volumes. Okay, so this will give you just a snapshot of roughly the 150 different member libraries. You can see some very big libraries, University of Pennsylvania, University of Virginia, some Getty Research Institute, some very small places like American University of Beirut. For the most part, it is an American organization, and it sort of runs around American conception of copyright law. There are now 6 Canadian universities that have joined. There's one from Japan who has contributed materials, one from Australia, New Zealand now, go Kiwis, and we're looking forward to something from Hong Kong very shortly. To give you a sense of sort of over history, you can see that University of Michigan, University of California provided sort of the majority of the work. That's where the scanning works were set up. Harvard's catching up, and University of Illinois, go Illini, at about 700,000 scanned things. As time goes on, these numbers are sort of smoothing out a bit, with the rest of the organization contributing more relative to the other schools. So, anyway, it's an older number, about 14 million, 85% in the top 10. So this is another way to look at how we imagine the data. So about 62.5% of this data is locked down, it's under copyright. Then we have a little bit of Creative Commons, not too much. About 13% of the data is in the public domain in the US, determined by US rules, and then public domain in the world. So together, these two public domains make up about 36%, and it's always a bit of tricky. US public domain is a bit more forgiving than European public domain. Sometimes you think, oh, a book should be in the public domain, but it might not be in the public domain in Europe, where it is in the States. And they manage this as part of their job at the HathiTrust to manage those nuances. So you can sort of see here, this is the distribution of the volumes over time. Again, if you can imagine a book sitting on the shelf at the University of Michigan Library, odds are we have a copy of it, right? And so we're kind of reflecting the nature of university libraries. The orangey part is the public domain open, and you'll see this sort of magic wall around 1923, 1924. Basically everything prior to that in the United States is in public domain, everything afterwards is not. These volumes up here probably are government documents, because in the United States they don't have the Crown copyright idea. It's basically if the government makes it, it's public domain. So, and you can see this, I find this really fascinating. You see it's American universities, and this number goes between 49 to 51, right? So it's only the pluralities, we've hardly even the majority. English, and then we work our way through the languages, and you can see over here, Asian languages sort of making up about 6–7%. And we can talk more about that because the scanning of it, we were talking last night at the bar, the scanning of it is problematic. It needs work, and I would look for some of your advice to make that better. German, because of its importance in science and engineering, and then all the way around. And this number, I've seen numbers as much as like 500 languages are represented in this collection. So you can get over there. There's a bibliographic API supported by the University of Michigan. There's also an OAI open point to get some metadata and start to work, start doing some searches. So I'm amazed actually the number of scholars that really use this data, more than I thought they would. I always thought it'd be more of a librarian kind of thing, but real digital humanities scholars love high quality MARC records. So this is just because I don't want to do a live demo. If you ever gone to the HathiTrust at HathiTrust.org, you can see this is obviously a public domain work because you can see the scan. You can, even if this book is not in the public domain, one of the best services ever is we know at least one place where this book lives. So you can actually find out if you need to get a copy of it to start your search and start to get a copy of the book and move on and do your research. So that's, if nothing else, it's a very, very worthwhile service. And then, keyword and context and all these kinds of interesting things. This is especially for, if I'm not mistaken, that's public domain. And you sign in, basically they use Shibboleth, I believe. And so if you're a member of University of Washington, you log in and then you get more access to the resources. I would log in as a member of University of Illinois, and so on. There's an example, page view, cover and all that stuff, and that's the ability to download the complete work if you're a member. So anybody anywhere can use the search engine, which is yay, that's great. And you can start to talk to us about text and data mining. You can ask for little open source collections of text, they manage that. And of course you can always read the open access works via the web. Members get special access to download complete works if they're in the public domain. They get more of our help at the Research Center, and they can use what I'm going to show you is our data capsules to do some work. And this one is I think the most awesome one. Access for users who have print disabilities is basically open, so they can use the entire collection. Okay, American copyright law and disability law is really, really good for this, and this is new, right? They just finally signed the Marrakesh Treaty, and all my librarian friends were very happy about that, so that's great. They're always dealing, so this is a project at scale. There are 5.9 billion thingies in this collection, right? There's a lot of noise. And if you're looking for perfection, you're coming to the wrong place. This works because of scale. It doesn't work because everything's corrected. So they're always discovering this kind of stuff. Or hands, they'll discover a hand, or a sandwich, or a small child, right? It's like someone left a child on the scanner. So my keys, someone's probably gonna find my keys. So they're always working to improve this stuff, but it's an ongoing problem. It's part of the challenge. Okay, so I think folks in this room would like this part of the talk. This is what's actually sitting inside the digital library. And hopefully this will give you an understanding of the stuff that digital scholars are using. So for each and every page in the collection, there's at least one high quality, high resolution scan. So there are about 5.9 billion of these, one for each and every page, including the cover. The cover is page 0, and then you just go all the way through. This is an example that has some classic little errors in it that we are bumping up against all the time. For example, so there, for each and every page, we have, oops, did I just kill something? Okay, here we go. Each and every page, we have one-to-one relationship, a .txt file in UTF-8. Note some of the problems from the scanning. This is done by Google. We get the garbage stuff because of the ornamentation. We have the classic long S problem, where that should be an S, right? And that happens a lot. If you search for the word cafe, it appears way more than you think it should, because there's a lot of case law in the collection. It's kind of freaky. And then, of course, you know, that should be if, and so on. So it's still awesome. It's still fantastic for doing a lot of things. You just have to realize that there's noise in this signal. Okay, so for each and every page, so we take a little excerpt from that page, and they generate a second kind of OCR that's in the collection, but we don't use it too much yet. It's called coordinated OCR. It's not coordinated because it can dance very well. It's coordinated because it gives the coordinates where it found each object on the page. And that can be useful in some cases. And then magic algorithms declare, I find this thing here, I believe it to be a word. I see these words in a line, I'm going to call that a line. I see 2 lines that seem to be side by each. I'm going to declare that to be a paragraph. This is all done automatically. It has errors, but it's way better than nothing. And so it's really quite powerful. So now what we have 5.9 billion images. We have 5.9 UTF-8 .txt files, and then we have 5.9 billion of these. So basically, we have 18 billion files sitting on the disk at the University of Michigan. And it's all held together using METS, the Metadata Encoding and Transmission Standard. And you can see the pieces. These METS files are really long and complex. They are in the tens to hundreds of megabytes. Each page is described, what were the settings, who did it, whose kid was it that got scanned by accident on that page, and any tipping in of pages and all this stuff. Lots and lots of preservation metadata. And of course, in this particular case, for all the librarians, there's the 100 field, so there's the statement of responsibility. And we also have the titles in there someplace, 245 someplace. So there it is. Okay, so that's the data that we work with. That's we primarily are working with the text data in the .txt, those 5.9 billion page-by-page files. How are we doing? God, I'm good. Okay, so if you come to the HathiTrust Research Center via the web, we have a site called analytics.hathitrust.org, and this is our gateway. So this is how we would introduce ourselves to you. We have extracted features, text analysis algorithms, and our data capsules, all of which I'm going to explain hitherto forthwith. So our goal, in the end, as part of the Research Center, is to help others, not me, other real professors, other real students to generate scholarship. And here's an example from Professor Ted Underwood and his colleagues who have been writing some really impressive digital humanities scholarship that's getting buzz, international press, using our materials. And so this is something I leave it to you to take a look at, and it's all about gender, the notion, transition of gender and publication in fiction over time. And it's really, really good work. Okay, so what our goal is to provide non-consumptive research access to this collection. So what does that mean? By consumptive reading, consumptive action is the notion that I take a book and I read it. I consume the book as a human and walk away with its ideas and so on. Non-consumptive research, however, it removes me from the loop in the sense of reading and understanding the book and intervenes a computer. Because it turns out, within the context of American copyright law, all of these actions, text analysis, image analysis, linguistic analysis, automatic translation, indexing and search, that's i.e. Google's business model, can be operated on copyright material without violating copyright. And that's how this, if it weren't for that, we wouldn't be in business, right? This is why we can do it. So whenever folks work with us on the copyrighted material, they never get the data, right? They bring what we do, we flip the world on its head, and we bring the computation to the data. So the data sits, you find folks who write an algorithm or analysis, you send me the algorithm, I run it on your behalf, and I give you the answers, because the answers aren't copyrighted, right? They're just facts. So that's the kind of inverse paradigm shifting world in which we work at the HathiTrust Research Center. So we offer 3 sort of main ways that we help people do this. I'm going to talk about this at some length. So we have our notion of extracted features, which I will explain. Then we have a portal, which has some algorithms that some folks can use and some other analytic tools. And then we have our more sophisticated tool, and that's the data capsule, which I'll show in about 2 seconds. Okay, let's start with extracted features. So there's the portal. You can come and visit, and you can start to see some of the things I'm talking about up here in the header there. And I just did this again. There we go. Okay, is that right? Good. So data capsules. Data capsules are our most sophisticated tool, and these are for folks that actually program, that write Python scripts and so on. And all a data capsule is a special kind of virtual machine. And everyone here knows what a virtual machine is? Anyone not know what a virtual machine is? Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Virtual machine is a computer. Only it's not running in hardware. It's running in software. It's a software version of a computer. It's how the cloud works. Right? So I can spin up a fake computer, and I can have special powers over that. I can move it from machine to machine, and the data capsule is a special kind of virtual machine, and it has this property. Getting materials onto the virtual machine is really easy. You can put in some of your own collections of text, you can put in your own programs, but it's really hard to get stuff out of the virtual machine. And why is it really hard? Because I don't want you stealing my books. Right? So you can go, it's like Hotel California. You can get in, but you can't get out. Right? That's Road to Motel. And here's an example. This is a data capsule running. This is a real world. Everyone works in Python anymore. All the cool kids are Python kids. And this is an IPython notebook looking at a vector space machine, doing some text analysis, and that's what the user sees. They see this kind of, it's a Linux, they get a Linux box and off they go. So what's the difference? The main thing about the data capsule is that when the user is writing their programs, they're not connected to the data, right? They get some practice data to work on, to structure their things, and there's a connection broken between their computing and the data. When they're done testing, and boom, they go into secure mode. And note that the data capsule then connects to the data, but they lose access to this. So there's never this chain, user, machine, data. There's never a direct line, right? So you can be user and machine, or a machine and data, but the transitive property doesn't hold, where you can't go user to data, because that's where people start stealing things. So that's the whole point about this. And then after the analysis is run, the analysis data, the answers are put into a special cache, and our librarian literally reviews the answers to make sure it's just not a clever way to steal the books. And that's the data capsule, getting a lot of traction on that. And we now can include other people's tools inside the data capsule. Very famous tool called Voyant from Canada. And so you can see here that they're actually crunching some of our book data right there. Okay, so another kind of data way that we can share things that you might be interested in is extracted features. This is the project that I lead at the research center. So extracted features are nothing more than facts derived from the content. For example, I could count all the words on each page and give you that inverted file on that page. So if like the word duck appears twice, the word Fred appears once, I can give you those counts. That's very useful stuff. That's basically what a lot of text mining begins with anyway. So we're just cutting out the middle person. We can also run all different kinds of analysis software on it. For example, we use the Stanford part-of-speech tagger. And we go through, and if we have the language, then we'll give you all the parts of speech for all this text. So the word duck might occur twice as a verb and once as a noun. And we can show you that, and then we collect it all together. So, in our collection, we use JSON. We provide metadata. Here's some of your classic bibliographic metadata, the link back to the full collection. And then here, this is us getting started. Sequence numbers, we don't call them page numbers, they're sequence numbers. That's the cover, and there's obviously some words. There's five words on that cover, and then we can just go out and share that with the world. And it gets really, really awesome as we go there. So there's the header. Then here's the classic, this is one page. You can see the word way is one of them, and it's a noun. There's the letter A, it's a article, and there's one of them. And we have that data. We have that data for 5.8 billion pages, and you can download it right now. As I'm speaking, you can download this data, and it's open. Yeah, so there we go. There's 15 million volumes in it, 5.7 billion pages. We're a little bit behind on doing the extraction. We're doing another version coming up, and it's 2.5 trillion tokens that you can have and analyze and do whatever you want with it. Have fun with it, and it's all just open and download it. There's the numbers I just spoke of. And so there's another subset that's getting a lot of traction. This was sort of generated by Professor Underwood, and this has a strong focus on works of fiction that English professors and their students have been using quite a bit. And there's those counts there. Then we've taken that data and built a new search engine. We call it our Extracted Features Solar Engine, and we can search for the word on any page in the collection and do an and with the metadata. So I can find every instance of the word moose, and I can also, because we have the part of speech data, I can search for all the use of the word duck as a noun. It's a bit slow because it's crunching a lot of data, but that's what we did with the extracted features. Okay, and Dr. Bainbridge is helping us with that. You can just go to that URL and have fun. Out in the wild, other people have taken our data. So this is Chris Forster, Syracuse University. He went and did all the page counts for all the volumes up until the 1923 break. And as you can see, there seems to be a classic average number of pages in a book. It's around 275. But as time goes on, the variance increases. It's kind of interesting. And he just hacked that together over a weekend, I believe. Then this is work by David Mimno, a very strong digital humanities scholar. And this is all the top 10 words associated with each other across the year. So you can search for the word Washington. Then in 1923, these were the top 10 most common things associated with that particular word. And you can, if you click here, then Columbia becomes a focus, and then you can see the evolution of these terms over time. And he used that using our extracted features data. So topic modeling, this is my postdoc, Peter Orjanishtak, who's now a junior professor at Denver. So this is one novel, this is the Scarlet Letter, and then he's applied topic modeling, and then showing where these topics pop up over the course of the work. So this topic here about the office and customs house occurs very much at the beginning and then never comes back. So you can start to see the story arc. And he has this tool, you can have it right now, put it in any novel you want, and you'll get one of these. And you can start to see these maps of the books. So that's, I should change that to University of Denver. But, I will next time. Okay, then this is the work of Jonathan Goodwin at University of Louisiana, Lafayette, and you can go right there and take a look at the action. he did topic modeling on all these unknown novels, right? So there's tons and tons of unknown novels in this collection. And as you know, there's a lot of librarians in the room, we have very poor subject access to fiction. So this is an automated way to start to get a sense of what these novels are about, right? So this one has something to do with dinner, tea, married, letter, and then you can click in there and you can see the distribution of the words in that particular novel, and then interrelationships between them. And he just took our data and built this. It's awesome. So we paired up with some folks. These fine folks here, Rez Lieberman and Ben Schmidt, who are really smart. And they have built a tool called Bookworm, which is a descendant of the Google Ngram viewer. There's the relationship, it's kind of their work. And we brought in the data, and so we got a grant. And I'll show this to you in a second. So Ben Schmidt does really great high-level work. So our people are really interested in trying to master this data. I really, really recommend this paper. And this is dimensionality reduction, which is a big area right now in digital humanities. This data is too big, right? It's too many dimensions. There's 4 or 5 million different unique words in this collection, at least, right? So that's way too many dimensions. This paper finds ways to reduce that dimensionality. I think it's down to about 256 dimensions, and then makes use of it. And that's all based on our extracted features data set, and so you can go there and explore. And he's built a visualization of the entire collection using this reduced dimensionality data. Yeah, so, and you can get his reduced set, yeah, success rates the set. So if you want to get his reduced set, you can download it from his site. And there's his book stuff. You gotta make sure that URL's correct. Okay, so there it is. This is the tool that Ben Schmidt made. Basically, you can zoom in anywhere in this space, and you will see those works coming together. And he has these really interesting sub-collections. Like there's the nebula of bad OCR, and it's true. You go in this zone, and it's just all OCR mistakes, right? When you go over here, then it's all Russian poetry. When over here, it's all French literature, and it's just done automatically in that reduced dimension set. It's pretty cool. And so there we are. That's the thing to look at. Okay, so we're getting close. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, so we are now doing some extra work. How many people here know JSTOR? JSTOR, the repository of the journals and so on. So JSTOR is run under the umbrella of an organization called Ithaca. And Ithaca also has some other, they do a lot in this kind of space, in the scholarly supply, scholarly world. They also have another service called Portico. And Portico is a dark book archive. So publishers will make sure that Portico gets a copy of their works, just in case the publisher goes out of business, that kind of idea. So it's not really a sharing repository, it really is a dark Fort Knox repository. But they're operating the same kind of space then as we are at the HathiTrust. They have a lot of books that are sitting on disk that could be useful for text mining. So we are partnering with Ithaca, that's the master organization. They run JSTOR and Portico. And the University of Virginia Library, whose dean is John Unsworth, a name some of you might know. John was my dean when he was the dean at the library school. And has now gone on to be the dean at the University of Virginia. He's a big name in the text encoding world, and he's organizing this as a pilot project to see if we can bring the 3 collections together without violating copyright. So the pilot project is a mechanism by which we're trying to unite the collections while respecting all existing agreements. So JSTOR is actually an amalgamation. if I say 1,000 different journals, I'm probably exaggerating. But all these different publishers all have a stake in this, and so we have to figure out ways that we're not violating copyright, nor violating sort of contracts. Right? There's another layer of complexity there beyond just copyright. Is that people have signed agreements about this content, and we're trying to show that this is a safe thing to do that gives you extra value add on these collections. So right now in the pilot project, none of the content leaves, so we're not making a copy of the HathiTrust and giving it to JSTOR. JSTOR is not giving us their copy and so on. We're just keeping it distributed. There's the dark archive I was saying. And then with JSTOR, we're trying to come together, and there's some classic problems that we're having. At the HathiTrust, as I said earlier, our unit is called the volume. It's not the book, it's the volume, because it might not actually be a book that's on that spine. And then our units inside a volume are those physical scan pages. They don't have that at JSTOR. At JSTOR, they're journal runs, so they have issues and volumes, and they're organized different. So a lot of our work has been classic library work, trying to reconcile the distinction between these two things, and we've been coming up with new metadata schemas to do that. So here's a great diagram on how we all come together, and the way that we're coming together in this first round, we're all doing the same extracted features. So we have our feature extractor code that we run against the HathiTrust. We've now modified it to deal with the notion of the journal and the issue and so on. And then we hand it over to JSTOR, and they run it against their content. So now we have two extracted features data sets that are compatible, right? So because they're compatible, then we can start to aggregate them, right? And so we're reusing our code from the original extracted feature set. We can ship this extracted features data anywhere. It's not a security risk, which is awesome, right? And then so the tool developers, we don't have to watch them as much. And then it allows for reproducibility. That means here's the data set. Researchers can publish it and go on, and then show. This is the key part. We need a demonstration to show the publishers that we're not hurting their data. That's right. That no animals being hurt while making this movie. That kind of problem, right? And future partners and future folks. So in a very weird way, I don't know if you can kind of see that, but it's a bit library science, but it's very similar to that extracted features layout that I showed you before. We are very much getting into the linked data RDF mindset, sort of semantic schema ideas, because we are going to use linked data stores to interconnect these things, right? We're going to use VOF, the virtual internet name authority files, and so on. And we have the objects, and it's all embeddable. And JSON seems to be, all the cool kids seem to like JSON as a mechanism for moving these things through, so that's what we're doing. And there we are. There's part of our extracted features data model, and you can just sort of see, right? Publication volume is part, this volume is a part of a journal, and so on. You can just sort of parse that, and you get a sense of what that's all about. And that's the glue on which we're hanging the project. And it's working. And so, the last thing I want to talk about now, and how are we for time? Absolutely. I got 6 minutes. Yeah, thank you, very kind. So that's all, that's partnership, that's a little bit technical, bringing in our library skills to manage this data. It's a really huge data management problem. Now let's get over to the human side. So the other thing that people always forget, and I sort of tell folks that you really can't forget this, is that as much as we like to talk about data mining and text mining and cloud computing and virtual machines, what we really need is more human outreach and more human connection on these things, because this is a hard problem. Just having the hardware, having the computers won't make it any simpler. So we got a grant from the IMLS, Institute for Museum and Library Services. And what I really want to stress, this is all about our Digging Deeper, Reaching Further outreach program, which I believe is pivotal as our part of our work at the HathiTrust Research Center. As you can see, this grant is multi-institutional. I am nominally the PI on it now, only because smart people went and got other jobs. Right? So I'm the caretaker PI. But it was these folks. I got the list here. So I'll show you the list in a few seconds. But yeah, so it's all about creating content for training trainers. The classic train the trainer kind of program, using the HathiTrust materials as the anchor to show these things. So they would very much come to a room just like this, right? And put on a day workshop and get your hands dirty working with these materials. And all the materials are up. So they don't even have to come here anymore. You can just download and take a look at the materials. I think if you're a practicing librarian in this space, very much something you would want to look at. So yeah, so here's very active people. Harriet Green, former University Associate Librarian at Illinois, now at Washington. She's one of the big leaders. Angela Courtney from Indiana, another one of the big leaders. Eleanor Dixon, who's now at Michigan, she's another one of the major leaders. And then we had a range of different colleges, big ones, little ones. He's now the University Librarian at Colorado. Beth Sandor is now the University Librarian at Waterloo. Yeah, and so you can see it's just a really good project. And it's wrapping up. We're about 6 months from the final end. So yeah, so they've had like 18 regional workshops. They're one-day events. Some of them are recorded online. You can take a look and see what they're like. Very modular, right? So you can promote reuse. Introduction, acquiring text data, that's always a pain. This is actually one of the hardest parts of the whole data analysis project. It's not crunching the numbers. It's getting your data in place and finding it. Like, we spend so much time doing that, right? And then, of course, then you get it cleaned up, and then you do your analysis, and then visualization is probably the next trickiest thing. So here's the major units. Some of these terms now you might have recognized. Our work set builder, that's our search engine, our different algorithms, the text corpora and topic models, very popular. Great gateway drug. Topic modeling is one of your first easy steps into this world of scholarly textual analysis. The tools are just stable and get you nice results quickly. So yeah, targeted for beginners and so on. Then framework around reference, like a typical kind of reference question, so to motivate it. They interact with the content and of course guided discussions. They actually did some assessment after they'd done it. They had 300 respondents to their survey, which is kind of a lot for a library survey. They did 26 in-depth. Yeah. Anyway, they did 26 in-depth. This is sort of intense content analysis stuff in the sort of the ethnographic tradition. Yeah, and so people seem to like it. And remember, we're training the trainers. So ideally, they already now have a set of tools so they can run the exact same workshop for their unit at their university, right? And so they have really good results. So the hands-on, the real-world examples, and the ability to work with these things. Yeah, so one problem, and there's a great line that Eleanor has. Yeah, yeah, this. Yeah, the connection stuff. Yeah, always guaranteed the data you give the board so you can't connect, right? So this is a great slide from Eleanor, right? Newton's third law of training, right? For every suggested improvement, there's an equal and opposite suggestion, right? Always. But they're really good sports, so they did a good job, and they're still working on it and refining. And all the materials are available online. I'm going to keep going through here. Interview respondents wish for follow-on workshop. I think this is something we always need to do. I think we all, as a community of librarians, need to keep in touch on this and forever evolve these tools. Yeah, so there. If you go there, the entire package is available for you to take a look at. Use it as you see fit. Give us some feedback. Invite us to come and teach it in Hong Kong or any other fun place where other people are, right? And then here we are. So We are about to release our next version 2.0 of the extracted features dataset, and that's one that is more in line with the text data mining project, and we corrected some mistakes from the earlier version. I'm not going to tell you what those mistakes were because they're embarrassing. So continue with the TDM pilot project. There is a prototype that I can show you maybe over coffee. And then we have our big search engine, which we'll be releasing in the not too distant future, which is a mix of Solr and linked open data. So that's the area in which we're growing, trying to get semantic web stuff happening. We've been asked to do more translational research. That is, we do some research and ideally those results end up in the HathiTrust digital library, making those things better. And of course, more outreach. This is just, yes, you're going to do more and more outreach. And then for me, I am always open to engage in more collaborative projects. I'm at heart a professor and a researcher. We're going to keep improving the portal and the extraction tools. More international partnerships beyond the ones that we have already. This is one where I need expertise, and this might be the room. We really need help with Asian materials. I do want to move beyond text, but we're very much focused on text. And I'd like to do some research and finding out the new tools for the visually impaired. I think there's a lot of traction that we can have right there. And that is that. So remember, I'm the co-director of the Research Center. Mike Furlow runs the HathiTrust. So if you have a kind of membership or a HathiTrust question, direct your attention to Dr. Furlow and his team. They're really responsive. And then if you have anything to do with the research side of things, that's my area. So you can email us at hdrc.help or take a look at the portal, make connections there. And of course, my email is right there. And this is the point when you clap. And there's the... Thanks.
Well, excellent timing. Thank you. This is a really engaging talk. In my mind, immediately come up with words like open, passionate, positive, keep going. Well, that would be coffee. But allow us to take two pressing questions. We have a long coffee time. You can get hold of Professor DOWNIE to discuss. Any pressing question? We can take two. From the audience?
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Yes, Esther.
Hi, I'm Esther Wu from the Hong Kong University Libraries. I would like to know if there will be any possibility for your team to maybe provide some more kind of training or maybe in-depth exchange with our librarians in Hong Kong.
Sure.
Yeah, this is truly a pressing one to get hold of you. Okay, another one from the audience. Okay.
So is anyone, are you going to talk your bosses into joining the HathiTrust?
I shall be after Louise immediately. So if no further question, we'll have a coffee break. Our MC will take over.
Thank you, Professor DOWNIE, for the very informative and talk on what's going on, fascinating at HRC. So we are now having a break, and we will gather again at 10:40, and there is refreshment prepared over there. Please enjoy yourselves.